Welcome to the Brilliant Fertility Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Rose, and this podcast exists to help illuminate the path ahead of you. With expert interviews, clinical pearls, and real client success stories, my intention is to bring you hope for what's possible on this journey and to give you tools and resources to navigate the ups and downs on the road before you. If you find this podcast helpful, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite listening platform. And I have a big request. If you have a minute, can you leave us a 5-star review? And let us know, what did you learn? What did you come away with? Did you leave with that spark of hope? This helps more people like you find the podcast. My mission is to support as many humans as possible on their path to become parent. And by you sharing and subscribing, you're part of that mission too. And I'm so grateful for you for being here. Hello, and welcome back to the Brilliant Fertility Podcast. Happy New Year, I hope. I know that New Year's can come with a lot of charge and pressure to be like, okay, this is the year. This is when it's going to happen. This has to be it. You know, it's that whole, I think, mantra of like new year, new you. Seeing so many ads for that in my social media feeds. It kind of makes me want to bleh, because I've been around this world for a while. I've been in the fertility world for almost 12 years, and I see how much damage that can really cause to put that much pressure on a date change. And yet it can also bring about a lot of hope to be like, okay, maybe this is a clean slate. But what I don't want for you is to get trapped in some meaningless resolution or a checklist that might be good for one person, but not applicable to you just because it's a new year. So where I really focus energy on is setting intentions and really diving into, what does the individual need? What do I need as the unique unicorn miracle human being that I am? And I hope that you begin to see yourself as a unique miracle human being as well, who has your own unique individual needs. And in setting intentions, it gives you so much more space and flexibility for having those needs being met. Whereas this resolution, this is something that puts so much pressure on us. And when it comes to something like fertility, or there's certain aspects that we don't have control over, I think that's where setting a resolution or defining like, I want to be pregnant by X date can really set us back in so many ways. So let me go through a little bit for you about how I have set this stage in years past for my patients and clients with setting intentions, and really beginning with, what is an intention? It's less about the end game and it's more about the journey, how you feel on it, and who you are becoming. I don't know that I've talked about it so much on this podcast yet. I talk about it much more, within the Brilliant Fertility program, that your identity really matters on this journey. And I wish I had another name for this than journey, but, replace it if you hate that word. DM me some other options if you have a word that you love better. But this is really so much about who you are becoming as an identity. What is your most fertile identity? And that's going to look different from someone else's. And ultimately, the who you are becoming during this waiting, who you are being, is so powerful, and it influences all of the things that you do. So maybe you originally had a resolution of, okay, I am going to get to bed by 9 p.m. every night. I'm going to take my supplements every single day. I am resolved to doing this. And while that sounds good in theory, it's really undermining our way of being? And, who is it that you're becoming as you do those things? What is it serving you to do those things? What is the intention behind those? The intention, I'm sure, for so many of you is to optimally prepare your body for a healthy pregnancy, to optimize your hormones, to improve your overall health. And those are really great intentions. And that's where I would start from, is actually understanding the why behind the things that you are wanting to do. I dove into this a little bit with a patient this past week who is just starting to think about trying for baby number two. And in talking about the like, well, I've, really let myself slide on a lot of the self-care practices and taking my supplements and, better understanding like what are the barriers right now to taking her supplements as consistently as she would want to. It actually helped us understand so much of where stress was coming from in her life. And I think if we had just set this kind of arbitrary resolution to like, okay, starting January 1st, you're going to take your supplements at 8 a.m. every single day. And then what happens if we miss a day or we miss 2 days or we miss a week? And then we're like, oh gosh, I'm such a failure. Like, I've been there. I've been there with so many different things in life, not just in focusing on health and when I was trying to conceive and when I was trying to be so rigid with my diet and my supplements. But how often have you experienced that, especially with something like a resolution? And it doesn't have to be just a New Year's resolution, but a goal that you have set for yourself without understanding the why beneath it and what the true barriers are. It's really difficult to create a sustainable habit and understand how the subconscious is coming in and playing a role in these as well. Another example of this, and I'll use the supplement one again because this has just come up with so many of my patients. I had someone who came in, she busted out this big shopping bag of all, like, these are all of my supplements that I'm taking based on this book that I read. I'm sure you guys have heard of the book. It Starts with the Egg. I love it in the sense that it's well researched. I don't love how people get so attached to doing everything so by the book, if you will, taking 17 supplements, having that mentality of, I got to do this perfectly because I'm trying to control something. And then feeling really overwhelmed by the number of supplements that this patient in particular was taking, and feeling like if this has, I've been doing this for 6 months, and if this hasn't worked yet, then nothing is going to work. So it was really feeding into this idea for her that nothing was going to work. And taking all the supplements in the world isn't going to change your beliefs about yourself. It isn't going to change subconscious programming that has existed probably since childhood. Maybe it's been generational. So if we can pull back that urge to set a resolution, to do something perfectly, and if we start with that intention, then we have that flexibility to better understand ourselves. So I invite you to grab a piece of paper if you're in a position to do so. And I have some prompts, some journaling prompts that I like to use just to see, how we can make some shifts coming into this new year, coming into this new season of how you want to approach your fertility differently. And, feel free to pause, come back to this episode if you are driving or you're not in a position to be busting out your notes right now. And we can put these in the transcript as well, so you'll see these in the show notes. But number one, how are you feeling today? And just that simple. How are you feeling today? Number two, how are you feeling about this particular season of life? Number three, how is it different than what you expected. Number 4, what do you wish were different about this season? Sure, you could list a lot of things on those two. Number 5, what intention do you have as you proceed on the path to grow your family? Maybe that intention is to bring in more fun and peace and joy. Maybe that intention is to support your body in optimizing overall health. Maybe that intention is to deepen the intimacy in your relationship or your partnership. Take a moment with that one, because this is really powerful when you give energy to these intentions. Okay, this next one is going to challenge a lot of you. What help do you need to ask for on the way? Asking for help. So many of us are super independent. We are used to doing the homework and getting the A. We are used to achieving the things that we put our minds to and that we have put effort into. And if you've gotten this far and you're listening to this podcast and things haven't worked out the way you've expected, it may be time to ask for help in a different way than you've needed to before. Okay, number 7, what belief might you need to change about yourself, about your journey, about what's possible for you? Do you believe that nothing's actually going to work? Do you believe that your body is capable of getting pregnant, of staying pregnant? Do you believe that you are worthy of becoming a mother or becoming a mother again? Do you believe that this is just going to be hard? Do you believe that it's impossible to get pregnant when there's any external stressors? So many of these beliefs are truly subconscious, and until we hear someone else voice them out loud, it's almost as if we didn't realize it was there. And then once someone else says it out loud, you're like, oh shit, that's mine too. And that's one of the reasons I love facilitating the Brilliant Fertility Program, because when we have this small group who become really comfortable in speaking these things out loud, it brings up so much more opportunity for healing within the group and such an accelerated experience. And we can do this work one-to-one, absolutely, but sometimes it's just hearing that from someone else. And I've experienced this as a participant in group programs as well. And I don't know that I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I remember having this experience of someone else voiced it out loud really casually, but the way it landed on my heart was just like, oh my God, like I believe that about myself. And it was basically about being the most powerful version of yourself. And someone had asked, like, you know, like how would we approach a situation in which someone is like afraid of their own power? And like the way it landed for me was almost like I had just been kicked in the chest by a horse, if I could be more specific. And I just remember feeling like so vulnerable, realizing that I was afraid of my own power. And maybe that doesn't relate to a fertility journey specifically, but hearing someone else say out loud, I feel like I did something to deserve this. And then realizing, like, oh shit, I think I feel that way too, is an opportunity to bring those beliefs out of the darkness, shed light on them, and decide, is that really mine? Do I want to keep that? Or is it ready to kick that belief to the curb and create a new belief? that is in much higher service of my dreams. This is where this intention work can get really, really beautiful. All right, next question. Do you need more support or different support? And that might be a difficult question to know, like, is there a definitive answer to that? It might not be black or white. What I do know is that what got you here to this point is not what is going to get you to the next step on your journey. If you want something that you have never had, you are going to need to do things that you have never done, become a version of yourself that you have not yet become. And that change can freak our egos out a little bit. Even that question about asking for help, that one is, one that a lot of my patients and clients have struggled with. And if you go back to our earlier episodes, the one about gratitude, one about feminine versus masculine energy, so much of the wisdom and the learnings that come through during this path to motherhood can relate to that ability to receive. And if we can't even step out of our comfort zone and ask for help, how do we then receive the help? We have to start somewhere. And if you're not sure what type of support you need, or if there's a different type of support, is there a different provider who hasn't come into your awareness yet, or a different support group that you didn't know existed? How do you know how to find that? Where do you begin? Well, you're here right now. So I trust that if you are listening to this podcast, if you got to this part of the episode, then there's something here for you, that you have been guided to this point. And being able to trust the guidance, the signals in your environment as a part of this path to what your heart desires is a really beautiful unfolding that can occur as you begin to trust the universe, trust God, trust your body, trust your spirit baby's timing in all of this. So I do have an invitation for you. It is, you will be listening to this, gosh, just after the new year, 2025. I just can't even believe that. But we are going to be running another 3-day virtual fertility retreat this month. I'm so excited about it. We ran our first one last August, and the feedback from it was really it shocked me, because I went into that. I'll be really, really transparent. I went into that 3-day retreat with a horrible cold, having just ended my 10-year employment in a practice that I had been working in. My mind was scrambled from just having come back from a 3-day retreat. There was a lot going on, and I'd had this retreat on the books for a couple of months, and I went into it just like, okay, I am being called to fully surrender to what these folks show up with. And I just kind of sent a prayer out to the universe, with an intention, if you will, of, please just guide me in supporting these people to the best of my ability, to, help them in whatever capacity I have, and allow my ego to step aside. And the wisdom that came through, not from me specifically, but the facilitation of the wisdom that people were able to gain about themselves, their bodies, their path, their spirit babies, was so beautiful. The feedback was so amazing. I'm trying my best to continue that surrendering and going into this next one of saying, like, there's going to be something new and different to learn every time we run an experience like this. And it truly is an experience. And the reason I call it a retreat is, that feeling that you get when you go to the ocean and you stick your feet in the sand and you approach the water and the waves come washing over you. And as they wash away, it's almost as if like everything that wasn't serving you just begins to be released. And I want people to come away from this retreat experience having that feeling of like, oh, like what a relief. I was able to release all this that was no longer serving me. I learned so much about myself. I learned what type of support that I need as an individual. And that's what I expect to come away with on a retreat is this experience of coming away with wisdom and lightness and clarity and almost like a clean slate. Whereas I'm getting all of these ads at this time of year in my social media feeds for cleanses and challenges and boot camps. And that is just not the vibe. Like that is not the vibe that I want people coming into for fertility. We really want to foster this energy of creativity, receptivity, gratitude. And so I find it's kind of like ironic and funny when I've seen a couple of specific fertility ads for a 5-day fertility challenge. I'm like, well, shit, guys, like fertility is challenging enough. Like, can we not add like more labels of challenges here? But I also understand that they are speaking to people who, like many of you, have probably enjoyed stepping up to a challenge. Like, you know what to expect, and you're like, oh, I can take on any challenge. So maybe there's something in there for that particular person who is looking for that. And my concern is like, our society is just continuing to perpetuate that very masculine energy of doing, working hard, solving, restricting. And that's not what I want to create. That's not where I see the profound results in my practice and in my programs. So I am dropping the link to this 3-day retreat in the show notes. I really hope that you join us because the experiences within it have been really beautiful to witness. And we're going to be having a lot of fun in there. And that's, my biggest intention for this coming year is bringing more fun into all aspects of life. Fertility issues can be so serious and, understandably so. And I really respect and honor, of course, all of the harder emotions that we go through, the anger and grief and jealousy and resentments and bitterness. It's all a part of it. And we can't deny that factor. But what's interesting is when we are having more fun, we are also able to rewire the brain faster. And when our brain is rewiring, this is where we have that capacity to build new beliefs. And if you've done some of these exercises with me in the past where we've exemplified the power of our mind, we know that the brain is what can create the blueprint, or your mind is creating for the blueprint for what's possible for your body. And that is going to be one of our future episodes is, how do we really create that blueprint from a place of receptivity and possibility. But for now, my intention is to just bring so much more fun into our experiences and within my day-to-day life. And so I'm working on that as someone who can get real serious in my work, as someone who tends to like put my nose to the grindstone as well. It's like, okay, well, can we work in such a way where we are also having a lot of fun? And what are the ripple effects of fun? What would that feel like for all of my fertility patients and my Brilliant Fertility Program clients to feel that fun coming through? And so that's my personal intention for the year. I hope that this episode just woke something up within you about the intentions that you have for your fertility success. And I hope that you join us in the 3-day virtual retreat starting January 14th. And it's going to be a really, not to overuse this word, we're going to have some fun in there. And I hope that this next year for you is just one of beauty and growth and transformation in the best way possible. As always, I am sending you so much love.